Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that is due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all learned this truth from and who do well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. Until you, I say shalom. Coming to you back with another lesson through the Spirit, and the title for this was going to be Babylon the Great, still holding on to his glory days. And who is Babylon the Great? Written about in the scriptures, Mystery of Babylon, will be no other than America, the United States of America, the land of the land of the free, the land where you could come and go from rags to riches. But now the whole world's starting to wake up to the fact that America is really a whore that, it doesn't have the best interest of its own citizens. It doesn't have the best interests of its allies that form all these different contracts and covenants with them. So the world's starting to wake up to the fact that America isn't what it used to be back in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, back when it was at its pinnacle, when it was at its peak, when the whole world was afraid of it after what it did to Japan with the atomic bombs with Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and how the whole world just looked at America as as that old superpower that it used to be, where nobody could touch it because all these different nations didn't have the capabilities with its attack, with its offense. But now that all these different nations throughout the decades, throughout the years, have been forming their own offensive and defensive weaponry, now these nations are bucking up against Babylon the Great America, because America is still riding on that high horse from the World War II era, the 50s. But it is evident that America has been falling since the 60s. And really, that's all prophecy, because it's all written in the scriptures that, Babylon the Great America would only be allowed to rule a period of time, and then eventually it would fall, which that's what's happening now. This is Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 7. Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad. Yeah, and ultimately it was Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai who set up America, Babylon the Great, to be the hammer of the earth, to be allowed to go out throughout the different nations and countries, to take their resources with the sword, impose their U.S. dollar as democracy and all its different philosophies, that American wine, all the different degenerate behaviors that it loves to push here. It went out throughout the four corners of the earth and pushed out those same ideologies, women over the men, the alphabet agenda, the do as thou wilt spirit. And all the nations have woken up to the fact that it's poison, that American lifestyle, American ideologies, it's all poison. Here you have to work till you die. College isn't free if you want to further your education and further your life. You got to pay, you got to get in debt. You got fast food here and all different ways that Babylon the Great can kill you, because really this is a death style. Life in America isn't a lifestyle, it's a death style, because as soon as you're out the womb, you're born with a social security number, you're already in debt. You got to get indoctrinated in the school system, the public school system that the wicked elite banking families set up. And now that has been pushed out throughout the earth. And now all these different nations are starting to look at Babylon like, damn, we've been duped. Their contracts that we made with them doesn't really benefit us. It benefits them. So now these nations are starting to look at Babylon like the parasite it is, because that's what it is. It's a parasite. It takes on its host and it just sucks you dry. And with the move that they made a couple days ago with the whole Venezuela thing, now these nations are like, oh, damn. If they did that to Venezuela, what's going to stop them from coming into our country and take over? And that's that pride. That's the pride of Babylon the Great America, thinking that it's just never going to be stopped. Verse 8, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her take balm for her pain, if so she may be healed. And that's what's going to happen to America. It's going to be destroyed by thermonuclear missiles, by that nuclear fire, because all these nations are fed up with America. They're fed up with its philosophies, just going around the nations and taking everybody's resources. Eventually, if you have a neighborhood and there's that one thief that's just going around every house taking, eventually the neighbor's gonna be like, hell no, we gotta put that motherfucker down, and that's what's gonna happen. All these different nations is to the point where they're fed up with America, Babylon the Great. And that's what America's trying to do, is trying to stop its demise and its collapse, which all it did by taking Venezuela's oil and over the country, all it did was just delay it. But it's inevitable for Babylon the Great to collapse. It's not going to be healed. And all these different these maggers, the red hat people, they're starting to see that damn, we've been duped. We voted for DJ Trump. He was gonna make America great again, but now he's doing the complete opposite. He's destroying America. He's putting America in a way worse situation than it was already in. In verse 9, we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go everyone into his own country. For her judgment reacheth unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. And Babylon's not going to be healed. Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is being sarcastic. Like, oh yeah, we could have healed America, but it's not going to happen. It's prophecy for America to be destroyed by thermonuclear fire. And that's how America is going to end. It's going to end by those ICBMs, the intercontinental ballistic missiles, being shot over here by the different countries because of how much death, destruction, doom and gloom America has pushed out throughout the four corners of the earth. This is Job chapter 14 and verse 5. Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. So Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, his bounds are already set up where he's not allowed to rule further than that, because Esau, Edom really is already on borrowed time. But Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is on a whole different time zone that, it may seem like Esau, Edom has been ruling forever, but it really hasn't. Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is about to get this devil up out of here. And that's why the days are speeding up. The years seem like they're months. The months seem like weeks. The weeks seem like days, because Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is speeding up the days for his elect's sake. If not, no flesh will be saved. If Yahweh Bashim Yahushua would, allow the devil to rule for longer, then he would end up destroying the whole earth. Humanity would destroy himself. AI would take over, just like in the Terminator movies, the Matrix. So that's why Yahweh Bashim Yahushua has to put a stop to this devil, because this devil don't know how to rule. His NWO plan is foolish. Putting an RFID microchip inside everybody, rationing food, and it is madness. That's why Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is going to have to put this devil down. Get this next one. This is Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 3. The pride of thine heart had deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that said in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? And who's the one that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, that loves the mountains, that loves high-rise buildings with no damn windows, 70 stories up high? It is no other than the self-proclaimed white man, Esau, Edom. That's the one who has gone out throughout the four corners of the earth and deceived the whole nations to believe that he's the chosen people of the Heavenly Father, that they're the chosen people. That's why, they have complete rulership of the entire earth. No, they have complete rulership of the entire earth because they were given that blessing. And how would they rule with that blessing would be by the sword, because Isaac gave that blessing to Esau, Edom, to go out throughout the four corners of the earth, to take resources. The habitation should be, the fatness of the earth. He's over here taking everybody's oil. But that pride that blinded his mind to believe that I'm gonna never be brought down. I'm gonna keep doing what I've been doing for years and nobody's gonna stop me, because that's how Esau, Edom took over. He took over by murdering everybody, robbing, pillaging, taking everybody's resources. It's the same devil, it's the same damn plan. Go to these countries, act like he's friends with you, and then he stabs you in the back. And that's what he's saying. Like, damn, who's gonna bring me down? I've been doing this for centuries, and nobody has put a stop to me. But that's Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua fattening the heart of this devil. Hardening his heart, like it says in Romans chapter 17. Verse 4, though thou exalt thyself as that eagle. And what's the U.S. mascot? The eagle. That eagle has always been that Edomite mascot, throughout all the different empires. It says, and thou set thy nest among the stars. Thence will I bring thee down, said the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. And right around that period after the 50s, after the peak of Esau, Edom, that's the time that Esau, Edom wants to go back to, the 50s, when Jake, was under them, Edomites were on top, they had the clean ass Cadillacs with the shades on, milk delivered to their front door. Esau, Edom, that's when he was at his pinnacle. That's when he wants to be back, to that state. When nobody questioned him, when everybody looked at him as, the chosen people of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, everybody looked as white, as the top nation upon the planet Earth. But really that was all witchcraft. That was all deceitfulness by the devil. The devil being Esau, Edom, the deceiver, the adversary of the nation of Israel. And at that time, after the 50s, came the 60s, and that's when Esau, Edom, he had a further fool in the world, and he's intelligent, he's a top man. he so-called made it to the moon during the late 60s, and that's when our elder high priest Abba Bivens, that's when he came on the scene, who was prophesied to come in Malachi, and said, I will send you Elijah. And through the Spirit, we believe that our elder high priest Abba Bivens is Elijah. And at that time, that's when Esau, Edom started being exposed for the devil he is. He so-called made it to the moon, which we know that's all a psyop. Esau, Edom, he can't leave past the Van Allen belt. That's why he's trying so hard to offset prophecy, but really, he's just fulfilling prophecy more and more and more. I'm going to get this next one. This is Psalms chapter 49 and verse 11. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. And that's the inward thought of the so-called white man, Esau, Edom, believing that he's never going to be brought down, and he's going to continue to rule forever. I'm going to continue to go around the nations and take their resources, and they're not going to do nothing. I'm going to continue to cause havoc around the planet Earth, and nobody's going to stop me. And it says they call their lands after their own names. Who has gone out throughout the four corners of the earth, taking over the different countries and named them after themselves? No other than Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man. America, Africa. These are all Edomite names that went out throughout these lands and took over. And they have that same mentality that they're going to go to Greenland, they're going to go to Mexico, and they're going to take over, and nobody's going to stop them. But it's not the same. It's not what it used to be. All these different countries, they've built themselves up. Like the scripture says, let the weak say I'm strong. And that's what's happening. Now the world's starting to wake up to the fact that the problem of the earth is no other than Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, and America, Babylon the Great. That's why they're going to shoot missiles over here to the whore. This is Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 2. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? And that's not talking about the spiritual demon Satan, like these Christians love to push. inside these harlot houses. Lucifer rebelled against the Heavenly Father, and he brought 200 angels with him. No, that's not scriptural. This is talking about no other than the illuminated ones from this earth, which, they call themselves that, the Illuminati, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. This is who that's talking about. It says, son of the morning, how art thou cut down to the ground, which is weak as the nations. That's talking about the self-proclaimed white man, Esau, Edom. He's the enlightened one, that has the knowledge, the wisdom of this earth, but he don't have the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, and that's where he fucked up at. He's not ruling the world in righteousness. He's not ruling the world based off the law, statute, commandments. So if anything, he's doing the complete opposite, and that's why Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is going to have to bring this double down. Verse 13, for thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. I will also sit upon the mountain of the congregation in the sides of the north. And back, like going into that Obadiah chapter 1, that's what Esau Edom did, putting his satellites up there, his space stations, his telescopes, because he wants to be like Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. He wants to be able to see everything. That's why he's putting all these AI cameras throughout throughout the whole earth, because he's trying to be, omnipresent, be everywhere at once. He's puffing himself up like he's the chosen people. Verse 14, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. And that's what his plan is. He wants to be like Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. He wants to know the thoughts of every man. He wants to know where everybody's at all given times. It says, verse 15, yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. And that word hell, that's not going into a place underground where you burn forever. No, this is talking about a condition. Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, is going to be brought from his high and lofty place, ruler of the earth, complete rulership of all these nations, to being in captivity. That's the end of Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, because of his pride, his haughty spirit. Verse 16, they that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man? And it says man, not spiritual demon Satan, that made the earth to tremble, that did shake the kingdoms. Yeah, and that's what everybody's looking at Esau, Edom now. They're looking at this devil like, man, these motherfuckers ain't what they used to be. Back in the World War I, World War II. Really, America has been losing all these wars, that they've been involved in. The Vietnam War, Korea, over there in the Middle East. And all these countries are like, man, this America's not what it used to be. So that's why America's ultimately deceiving themselves, still holding on to that faded glory, like the Dallas Cowboys, still holding on to those Super Bowl in the 90s, but haven't done shit ever since that. That's America, Babylon the Great, thinking that they're going to continue to take nations and nobody's going to put a stop to them. But ultimately, that's the pride of this devil, believing that he's never going to be brought down, believing that he's going to continue to rule forever. But ultimately, he's wrong. Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is bringing this devil down, and he's bringing this devil down fast. And he's about to get him out of here. But that's pretty much the point. Pray this is edifying to the elect. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who all learned this truth from and who do well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect.